What happens when Hollywood's most outspoken actor comes face to face with daytime television's most controversial host? The answer might shock you. Before we dive into the explosive confrontation that had producers scrambling and security on high alert, don't forget to hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think really caused Joy Behar to storm off the set. Trust me, you won't see this coming. The View studio felt different that morning. There was an unmistakable electricity in the air as Mark Wahlberg settled into the guest chair, his usual confidence fully intact despite the early hour. Across from him sat Joy Behar, never one to avoid controversy, with that familiar glint in her eye that longtime viewers knew spelled trouble. "So, Mark," Joy began, leaning forward with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, "let's talk about your latest project. Another tough guy role. Don't you ever get tired of playing the same character over and over again?" Mark shifted slightly, his jaw tightening just enough for the cameras to catch it. "Well, Joy," he replied evenly, "if you actually watch my films instead of just reading headlines, you might notice there's a little more depth there than you're giving me credit for." The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't the playful banter they were expecting. "Oh, I watch plenty of movies," Joy shot back. "But let's be honest, you've built a career playing Mark Wahlberg in different costumes. The angry Boston guy with a heart of gold. It's like watching the same performance on repeat." The audience fell silent. Even Whoopi looked uncomfortable as she tried to jump in. "Well, I think what Joy is trying to say." "No." Mark interrupted sharply. "Let Joy finish. I'd really love to hear more of her expert film analysis." Joy's eyebrows shot up. She wasn't used to guests pushing back, especially not on her own show. "Expert analysis," she scoffed. "You don't need to be a critic to see patterns. You've been playing variations of the same character for 20 years. The troubled guy from the neighborhood who makes good. It's your entire brand? My brand?" Mark's voice rose slightly as the cameras zoomed in. "You want to talk about brands, Joy? Let's talk about yours. How long have you been playing the same character? The bitter comedian who tears down successful people because it gets laughs from an audience that feels better when someone else gets knocked down." The studio went dead quiet. In the control room, producers gestured frantically, but neither of them noticed. Joy's face flushed red, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Excuse me, did you just call me bitter on my own show?"
"I called it like I see it,"
Mark replied. "You've made a career out of cheap shots and easy targets. When's the last time you actually built something instead of tearing it down?" Sonny Hostin tried to intervene. "Maybe we should take this in a different direction," but Joy was already on her feet. "You want to talk about building things?" she snapped. "I've been in this business longer than you've been sober, Mark. I've built a career on speaking truth to power, not flexing and posing for the camera." Mark stood up slowly, his height suddenly dominating the space. "Speaking truth," he said coolly, "because, from where I'm standing, this looks like someone who's lost relevance, trying to stir drama for ratings." The cameras caught everything. Joy's hands trembled, whether from anger or adrenaline, no one could tell. The other hosts sat frozen, unsure whether to step in or let it play out. Lost relevance. Joy's voice cracked. "I've been speaking my mind on television since before you could string together a coherent sentence without a script. Don't you dare lecture me about relevance." Mark stepped closer, not threateningly, but with an intensity that filled the room. "Then start acting like it," he said. "Stop going for easy laughs and actually engage with your guests instead of ambushing them with pre-planned gotcha moments." "Ambushing?" Joy fired back. "You knew exactly what show you were coming on. If you can't handle a little pushback, maybe you should stick to action movies where the dialogue is simple enough for you to handle." The insult hung in the air like a slap. Mark's expression went stone cold, a look anyone familiar with his dramatic work would recognize instantly. "Simple dialogue," he repeated quietly. "That's rich." Mark shot back, coming from someone whose biggest contribution to comedy was standing next to funnier people and hoping some of it rubbed off. Joy's mouth fell open. In more than 30 years on television, she had never been spoken to like this, certainly not on camera. The audience sat in stunned silence. some shifting uncomfortably as it became clear this was no longer just television drama. "How dare you?" Joy whispered, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you come on my show and disrespect me like this?"
Your show, Mark.
"Last time I checked, it's called The View, not the Joy Behar Hour. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you've forgotten that other people are allowed to have opinions too." The control room erupted into chaos. Directors shouted into headsets, torn between cutting to commercial or letting the confrontation unfold. The other hosts looked like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. Joy began pacing, her hands slicing through the air as her voice climbed to a pitch that made the audio technicians wince. "You think you can come in here and humiliate me? You think a few good movies give you the right to attack me personally? I'm responding to you attacking me." Mark snapped. "You started this the moment I sat down, and you launched into that rehearsed takedown of my career. The difference is, I'm not hiding behind comedy. I'm telling you exactly what I think. What you think doesn't matter." Joy shot back. "You're a guest on my show, and you will show me respect." Mark laughed, but there was no humor in it. Respect is earned, Joy. And right now, you're not earning it. You're demanding it, like some untouchable queen bee who thinks she can't be challenged. The tension in the room was almost visible. Security began inching closer to the set, unsure of what they might need to step into. The audience remained silent except for a few nervous coughs. Joy stopped pacing and turned to face Mark directly, her eyes blazing with an intensity that made even the veteran camera crew take notice. "Untouchable," she said sharply. "You want to talk untouchable? I've been on television since you were still running around Boston getting arrested. I've survived network shakeups, co-host drama, and everything else this business can throw at you. I don't need some reformed troublemaker telling me how to do my job." Mark's expression hardened further. "There it is," he said coldly. "You can't argue with what I'm saying, so you go straight for personal attacks? Drag up my past because that's all you've got." "Your past is part of who you are," Joy shot back. "You don't get to pretend it didn't happen just because Hollywood cleaned up your image." "I'm not pretending anything," Mark replied. "I own my mistakes. At least I learned from them. You're still making the same ones you were making 20 years ago, going for cheap shots instead of having a real conversation." Whoopi finally tried to step in, desperate to regain control, but Joy cut her off without taking her eyes off Mark. "No. I want to hear more about how I'm doing my job wrong, from someone who thinks acting tough makes him an expert on everything." Mark shook his head, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "Acting tough? You have no idea what tough actually is. Tough isn't sitting behind a desk taking shots at people. Tough is owning your mistakes, learning from them, and trying to be better, something you clearly know nothing about." The other hosts were frozen. Sunny looked like she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Sarah seemed to consider ducking under the desk. Joy's voice dropped again to a dangerous whisper. "Don't you dare lecture me about being better. I've spent my entire career fighting for what's right, speaking up for people who don't have a voice. What have you done besides make action movies and pretend to be deep in interviews?" "Pretend to be deep?" Mark stepped closer, his voice rising. "I've put my money where my mouth is. I've created jobs. I've supported charities. I've helped kids in my old neighborhood." "And what have you done?" he continued, "besides complain about people who are actually trying to make a difference?" Joy scoffed. "You make movies, Mark. You're not curing cancer. You're not saving the world. You're an entertainer who's gotten far too comfortable believing his own hype." The audience was fully locked in now, some leaning forward as if they were watching a prize fight, instead of a daytime talk show. Camera operators seized the moment, cutting rapidly between tight close-ups as the argument escalated. Mark let out a harsh, humorless laugh, believing my own hype. That's rich, coming from someone who thinks being loud automatically makes her right. You don't want a conversation, Joy. You want submission. You want guests to sit here, nod politely, and let you deliver your rehearsed talking points without interruption. My rehearsed talking points. Joy snapped. At least I do my homework. At least I come prepared instead of winging it and hoping charm carries me through. Mark said incredulously. You really think that's what this is about? This is about respect. Joy, something you clearly don't understand. You think seniority gives you permission to treat people however you want. Joy was visibly trembling now, whether from rage or adrenaline. No one could tell. I treat people the way they deserve to be treated. She shot back. And right now, you're acting like an arrogant has-been who can't handle being challenged. The word landed like a punch. Mark's face drained of color, then flushed deep red. For a split second, it looked like he might completely lose his composure. A has-been, he repeated quietly. His voice was barely above a whisper, but every microphone caught it. I'm at the top of my career right now, Joy. My last 3 films made more money than your entire network pulls in during a strong quarter. But money isn't everything, is it? Because if it were, you'd be showing me a lot more respect. Joy's eyes flashed. Oh, now we're talking money. How very Hollywood of you. Reducing worth to box office numbers because that's the only metric you understand. I'm not reducing anything to numbers, Mark replied. I'm pointing out that maybe, just maybe, someone experiencing the level of success I am might know a thing or two about what works, but your ego won't let you hear that. My ego? Joy's voice cracked. You're the one who can't handle a simple question about your career without turning it into a personal attack. Simple question. Mark shot back. You didn't ask a question. You delivered a prepared insult disguised as commentary. There's a difference, and the fact that you can't see it is exactly the problem. Whoopi tried again, desperation in her voice. Maybe we should go to commercial? No, Joy and Mark said simultaneously, their voices overlapping in a moment that would have been funny under any other circumstance. Joy pressed on, her voice rising. No, I want to finish this. I want America to see exactly who Mark Wahlberg is when he doesn't get his way. Mark stared at her for a long moment. His expression shifted, not to anger, but to something closer to pity. Joy, everyone can already see who you are. You're a bully who's grown so comfortable in this chair that you've forgotten how to listen, forgotten how to have a real conversation. A bully? Joy nearly shrieked. Did you just call me a bully on my own show, in front of my own audience?
Yes,
Mark said calmly. Because that's exactly what this is. You didn't invite me here to talk. You invited me here to tear me down for entertainment. And when I pushed back, you got angry because no one's supposed to fight back. He paused, letting the words sink in. Well, I'm fighting back. The studio fell silent, broken only by the hum of cameras and the faint whispers from the production crew. Joy stood perfectly still, staring at him. Part fury, part disbelief, part something harder to name. You have no idea who you're dealing with, she said finally, her voice eerily calm. Mark met her gaze without flinching. Actually, I think I do. The real question is, do you? The standoff lingered, stretching on for what felt like an eternity, though it was likely only a few seconds. Joy's breathing was visible now, her chest rising and falling as she processed what Mark had just said. The other hosts looked like witnesses to something they were never meant to see, something that had crossed far beyond the boundaries of television drama. You know what your problem is, Mark? Joy said finally. Her voice had changed, colder now, more deliberate. You think reinventing yourself from a street thug into a movie star makes you better than everyone else. But I see right through the act. Mark's expression shifted, the anger draining into something harder to read. An act? He said quietly. There's no act here. This is me responding to someone who's been attacking me since the moment I sat down. He paused, then added, but if you want to talk about acts, let's talk about yours. My act. Yes, your whole angry truth, teller persona. The fearless comedian who speaks truth to power. But real truth tellers don't punch down. They don't use their platform to humiliate guests. And they don't hide behind comedy when they want to be cruel. Joy's face flickered through disbelief, irritation, and finally settled into pure rage. Cruel, she snapped. Cruel is coming onto someone's show and telling them they don't know how to do their job. Cruel is insulting someone's entire career in front of millions of people. I'm not insulting your career, Joy, Mark said evenly. I'm pointing out that maybe you've lost what made you good in the first place. You used to be funny because you were smart. Now you're just mean. and you think it's the same thing." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Joy's hands clenched at her sides. For a moment, it looked like she might actually lunge at him. "Mean," she said, barely holding her voice steady. "Let's talk about your anger issues. Let's talk about how you turned dysfunction into a career and now think that makes you an expert on human nature." Mark went completely still. "My anger issues," he replied calmly. "Oh, Joy, you're the one who's been yelling for 10 minutes. You're the one who can't have a conversation without turning it into a fight. Maybe look in the mirror before you start diagnosing people." "Don't you dare tell me to look in the mirror," Joy snapped. "I know exactly who I am. I call out phonies when I see them, and that's exactly what you are. A phony who thinks he's changed. But the second someone challenges you, the real Mark Wahlberg comes out." "The real Mark Wahlberg," Mark said. "This is the real me. Someone who doesn't let people walk all over him just because they have a TV show. Someone who stands up for himself when he's attacked." Joy let out a sharp, bitter laugh that made the entire studio uncomfortable. "Attacked? You think this is an attack? This is a conversation. This is what happens when someone asks you real questions instead of feeding you softballs about your latest movie." "Real questions," Mark replied. "You didn't ask a single one. You made statements. You delivered prepared insults. You tried to embarrass me on national television." He paused. "And the thing is, I'm not embarrassed." The words hit Joy like a blow. Her face drained of color, then flushed red, then pale again. "You're not embarrassed," she said incredulously. "You come on my show, disrespect me in front of my audience, call me names, and I'm supposed to be embarrassed." "Yes," Mark said firmly, "because everyone watching can see exactly what's happening. They can see who started this, who escalated it, who's acting professionally, and who's throwing a tantrum." Joy's mouth opened and closed before words finally came out. Her voice shook with fury. "A tantrum? Did you just call me a child?" She straightened, pointing toward the exit. Get out. Get out of my studio right now." Mark didn't move. "Your studio? I thought we already covered that."
Get out.
Joy screamed, her voice echoing across the set. "Security, get this man out of here right now." The audience gasped. Several people lifted their phones, recording despite the rules. The other hosts looked like they wanted to vanish into their chairs. Mark stood slowly, deliberately, his calm a stark contrast to Joy's unraveling as the studio teetered on the edge of complete chaos. "I'm not going anywhere until this segment is over," Mark said firmly. "I was invited here as a guest, and I'm going to finish what I came to do." "What you came here to do?" Joy snapped. "You came here to promote your movie, not to attack me personally." "Attack you?" Mark replied. "Joy, I've been defending myself this entire time. You're the one who turned a simple interview into a character assassination. Now you're angry because I didn't just sit here and take it." Joy resumed pacing, her movements sharp and erratic. "Character assassination?" She scoffed. "You don't know what that looks like, but you're about to." "Is that a threat?" Mark asked. "It's a promise," Joy shot back. "You think you can come on my show and humiliate me without consequences? You have no idea what you've just done." For the first time, Mark showed a flicker of concern, but his voice stayed steady. "If you can't handle pushback, maybe you shouldn't be in this business." The words poured gasoline on the fire. "I shouldn't be in this business," Joy exploded. "I've been in this business since before you even knew what it was. I earned my place here. I earned the right to ask whatever questions I want." "You've earned the right to ask questions," Mark replied. "You haven't earned the right to attack people and expect them not to respond. That's not how the real world works, Joy." "The real world," she scoffed. "You live in Hollywood. You don't know anything about the real world." "I grew up in Boston," Mark said evenly. "I know exactly what the real world looks like. And in the real world, when you treat people the way you treated me today, there are consequences." Joy was shaking now, her entire body trembling with rage. "Consequences," she hissed. "The consequence is you'll never be welcome on this show again. The consequence is that America just watched you attack a woman on national television." "Attack a woman," Mark replied sharply. "Gender has nothing to do with this. You attacked me first, and I defended myself. If you can't handle being challenged, Don't challenge other people. Oh, I can handle anything you dish out. Joy snapped. The question is, can you handle what comes next? Mark stared at her for a long moment, then slowly shook his head. You know what, Joy? I actually feel sorry for you. This isn't who you used to be. You used to be funny, smart, engaging. He paused. This version of you is just angry, bitter, and cruel, and that's not my fault. That's on you. The words hit Joy like a slap. Her face went white, and for a brief moment she looked fragile, almost shaken. Then the rage returned, stronger than before. How dare you? She whispered, her voice carrying through the studio. How dare you sit there and psychoanalyze me? You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through, what I've sacrificed, what I've built. You don't get to tell me who I am or who I used to be. You're right, Mark said quietly.
I don't know you.
But America does. They've been watching you for years, and they can see the difference between the Joy Behar who made them laugh and the one screaming at me right now. Joy stood frozen, staring at him, her expression unreadable. Then, without warning, she ripped off her microphone and hurled it to the floor. I'm done, she said coldly. I'm done with this conversation, I'm done with this guest, and I'm done with this show. With that, Joy Behar turned and walked off the set. The audience sat stunned. The co-hosts looked shocked. The cameras kept rolling as silence filled the studio. Mark glanced around at the remaining hosts, then looked directly into the camera. Well, he said quietly, I guess that's a wrap. What did you think of that explosive confrontation? Was Joy right to walk off, or did Mark cross a line? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable moments like this one. Let me know what you think finally pushed Joy over the edge.